Get ready for an eargasm as you listen to unsolicited advice from that chick you know, and that chick you know would be me, India L. Trotter. Sit back, relax, and get ready for a full dose of real talk. Enjoy the podcast, and note, this podcast is for mature audiences only.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Sound kind of country. Hello, everybody. Anywho, hi. This is Unsolicited Advice from That Chick You Know, the podcast. And I am that chick you know, India L. Trotter. And as usual, I like to have a little quick banter before I jump right into my topic. But I'm just like so depleted today. Do I sound depleted? I don't know. I went to the casino last night to do a little gambling, and it didn't go so well. Now, normally, you hear the stories about how well it goes, but for me yesterday, they stuck me for my paper. They stuck me for my paper. I feel like I was raped. I really feel violated. So shout out to Sugar House Casino because, they took my little money and sent me on my merry way. And so today I'm just in this depressive funk because I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do until next payday? I'm going to be all right, but understand that they got me. They got me good. So I'm a little depleted, but I'm getting my mind right for this podcast so that, I can entertain the masses. And so, maybe I needed to take my mind off of things, to take my mind off my money. Because right now I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Shout out to Snoop. So, let's get started, shall we? So let's start off with I am not the most religious person, but I'm very spiritual, right? So, albeit I have a potty mouth and may say some things that are off kilter, I have a relationship with my God, who may be your God or may not be. I don't know. It all depends upon what you believe, but I believe in one. I believe in the supreme deity, and I also believe that I have favor because in order to have favor, you have to claim favor. And there's just so many things that happen in my life that show me on a consistent basis that He's looking out for me. He has my best interest at heart. And so, albeit I do some shit and say some shit that may not necessarily fall in line with what a quote unquote good Christian would be defined as, understand my heart's in the right place, and I know that because I would never deny the fact that my God is, He lives. I just know that He looks out for me because I big Him up whenever I can, both Him and little baby Jesus. And I also believe the guy has a sense of humor. I don't believe that he's so stuffy that he's like, oh, you can't say that, you can't do this. Nah, he's not like that. He just as a matter of fact, sometimes I think I might be even his joke of the day. And that's a whole nother situation. Because I'm like, did you do that so that you could laugh at my dumb ass? But anyway, I digress. So I said all that to say that because I am who I am and I get involved in some of the things that I get involved with, sometimes I gotta check myself. I'm like, shit, what would Jesus do? Because I'm about to cuss this motherfucker out, or I'm about to do this, I'm about to go left when shit should go right. All these things happen, and I find myself is that the right thing to do, India? Is that what your God would want you to do? And as you get older, you don't want to be as rah-rah as you were in your 20s, because in my 20s, we could get it crunk. We could get it popping I was all for a fair one, but nowadays nobody, gives you a fair one. You gotta have a gun, and I ain't about that gun life. I ain't about that gun clapping life, yo. That ain't me. But I still give you a fair one. But nonetheless, as I get older, I gotta, I had to calm my ass down. Like, what would Jesus do? Jesus, he want me to be calm. He want me to calm my little ass down, so I calm down. So I came up with a couple scenarios that have happened recently in my life or in some other folks' lives. And it has made me, say, well, maybe people need to start checking themselves. Now, you may not necessarily say, what would Jesus do? Because you might not believe in Jesus like I do. I believe in little baby Jesus. But if you don't, then ask yourself, what would be the right thing to do? You don't have to necessarily say, what would Jesus do? But what would be the right thing to do in this particular scenario? So, without further ado, I want to jump right into today's topic. And again, today's topic is, what would Jesus do? Like, when motherfuckers start acting stupid, before you start acting stupid with them, what would my man, little baby Jesus, do? So let me tell you all what happened to me the other day. Now, for those of you who don't know, at one of my jobs I work at night. So I don't get in until 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning, depending upon what I'm scheduled. You know what I mean? So I came home, and I live in a little row home in Philly, nothing extravagant. Don't have a driveway, but what we do have is in the back, I have a garage, and I have my own little, I call it a cove that I park in front of because I can affix my car in such a way in this little cove that my door opens up to the car, and then I walk straight to the door of the back door of my home, and I walk in. And the only way that somebody could get to me would be if they jumped over the car. And maybe I'm not painting a good depiction of what that looks like, but this is how I park. And I park like that for safety reasons because, again, it's 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning that I'm coming in. It's dark, and I actually also have one of those, those motion lights, so that when I pull up, the light pops on. So, anywho, gave you a little background information. I get off from work the other day around 3-ish. I roll up to the back of my home, and my neighbor, who is typically normally parked behind my garage because, his truck spills over behind my garage, which is no problem at all, because I don't park in my garage, because that's a whole other story, but I just don't park in my garage. So I don't park in my garage, so it's okay for him to park there, but he was parked in my little cove, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, hell no. Like, I wanted to believe that I was seeing things like maybe I got the wrong house. Because again, I live in a row. I'm in the back of the house. It's dark. I'm tired. So maybe I'm not at the right spot. So I look again. I'm like, no, this is my shit. And he's parked in my cove. And so I checked to see, well, who's in his space? Because what would make you park in my space unless somebody was parked in your space? So like he had company or whatever. So someone's parked in his space. He's parked in mine. But that's no bueno. Like, I'm pissed. I've been at work all freaking night. And I come home. Of course, there's no spaces on the street because, again, I live in a row home in Philly on a one-way street. So all the spots in front of the houses get filled up. But, the spot behind your house, that's prime spot. Plus, it's your property. So who would park in front of somebody's cove on their property? So I'm pissed. And I'm praying to God, like, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Because at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm ready to ring this motherfucker's doorbell. Like, did you park in front of my shit? How am I supposed to get into the house? And why do I have to go look for a parking space, right? Right. So, anywho, I like my neighbors, though. They're cool. Cool people. Young couple. They got kids. I'm thinking, what would Jesus do? Because I'm thinking I need to ring the fucking doorbell because I don't have a place to park. But I calm my little ass down because I'm like, I want good neighbor relations. I don't want anything to manifest into a situation that it doesn't need to be, and over a parking space, because a lot of times we get into these situations with friends, family, neighbors, people we live around, because we take something very small and we make it very big. So again, I kept checking myself. What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Well, as you know, Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. And I was like, okay, Jesus, I'm going to love my neighbor, but I'm not going to love the fact that he's in my parking spot. So what I did was I decided that I would find a spot on the street, which I did. I would walk my ass to my house very fastly because, again, I'm not in a bad neighborhood, but I'm not in the best neighborhood. But, I made my way to my house rather quickly, rapidly, and then I wrote a note. And in this note that I wrote my neighbor, I'm like, hi, neighbor, and I go on to explain, it's okay for you to park in front of my garage, but it's not okay for you to park in my spot. And this is why. And I explained it. But I explained it with love and compassion in my heart, albeit I was pissed as shit. However, again, I like my neighbor. So I said, let me do the right thing to keep the peace. Let me deal with this scenario or situation as if I was the one who was the culprit and someone was dealing with me. No malice, no malintent. As a matter of fact, let me think about why he might have parked in my spot. Maybe he was rushing home. Maybe he was, I see he had company. Maybe he had company and he thought that the company was going to be gone and he was going to move his car like it. Maybe they fell asleep. I don't know. I don't know what happened. However, I had to check myself because my first instinct was to fly off the handle, but you can't fly off the handle. You have to stop and check yourself. And again, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, I kept saying to myself, what would Jesus do? Now, I ain't the most spiritual person, but damn it to hell, I believe in a supreme deity, and I believe in keeping the peace. And Jesus would have wanted me to keep the peace, so I kept the peace. What would you have done? Hopefully you would have kept the peace too. But just remember, Jesus said, love thy neighbor. So I'm going to love my neighbor. I'm going to love him when he's not in my parking spot, which I'm sure he won't park in my parking spot anymore because since he got that note, he has not parked in my spot. As a matter of fact, he hasn't even parked in front of my garage. Huh. So if you think back to the beginning of this podcast when I was talking about how I was in this little funk, I was in the funk because I lost all my money at the casino, right? So when you lose all of your money, you start thinking about all the mofos that owe you money. You're like, this motherfucker owes me money. So you start thinking about where you can get your little cash flow, your little revenue back up. And it's interesting because I don't lend any money anymore because one of my principles is if you can't afford to pay your bills, you can't afford to pay me. But there was a day and time when I wasn't as tight with my lending principles, if you will, as I am now. So I have folks that have borrowed money from me 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 years, even multiple years, more than 10 years ago, who have never paid me back. But then you see these motherfuckers on Facebook and you're like, did you just buy something new? Do you got on a new clothes? Did you buy a new whip? Did you got a new house? Like, you just got married? Like, what the hell? And then you're looking like, but this motherfucker don't have my money. And especially when you, again, just lost your money at the casino doing some stupid shit. But that's neither here nor there because at the end of the day, if you lent money with the intentions or with someone had the intentions of paying you back and they never paid you back, that'll make you say some shit to somebody out of pocket. So I sit back, scrolling through Facebook, looking at some stuff and looking at some people that owe me some money. And I'm like, what Jesus do? Should I reach out to these motherfuckers? Like, it's been a couple years or it's been XYZ amount of time. And I don't want to look like Petty Betty, but sometimes, you gotta be petty. But do I really want to be petty? And does Jesus want me to be petty? I don't know. And then there's something about me that's like, I don't feel like I should have to come to you to remind you that you owe me for some shit that you asked for, that out of the kindness and goodness of my heart, I gave you, right? Not gave. Let's correct that word. Lent you. So I said to myself, self, what would Jesus do? Let me look up some Bible principle to find out, what it says about people who owe you money.